You're listening to Question Reality. Question Reality with Priscilla Leona.
Hi! Welcome to the Question Reality Radio Show. Oh, I'm still saying radio. It's not radio anymore. We're doing podcasts. Okay, let me start it again. I've been on hiatus. I had to take a mental health break. I get so many texts and emails, people saying, where's the show? Where's the show? I'm telling you, I've been doing this show 22 years, so I got to take a hiatus once in a while. But I rewrote the intro, and if you've been watching the show, you know I cannot remember a line. Everyone told me I should have been an actress. I said, I cannot remember lines. So you're not going to get any lines out of me. I have to read it. But let's start it again. Hello, and welcome to Question Reality. Let me just read what I rewrote. We are an entertainment industry career advice show, and I am, as I said, Priscilla Leona, and I'm a multiple award-winning independent film producer, cable TV, podcast producer. What else am I? Host, red carpet interviewer, toot toot. I just tooted the horn. But you got to know who I am and what I do in order to establish some credibility, right? We've been on the air for 22 years, as I said, and we have questioned the reality of Oscar nominees, Emmy Award winners, Grammy Award winners, Tony Award winners, reality TV stars, and we also have had very seasoned heavyweights and multiple award winners, as well as people that are just moving on up to the East Side. I love that from the Jeffersons. It was a song to the sitcom, and I just love it. But we have people from all walks of life, and they speak openly about the trials and tribulations and the honest reality about pursuing a career in the entertainment industry, which is what the show's all about. Because I created the show to inspire, to motivate, and to educate. So we're going to try, which I think we will, have a super fun time together along the way. And by the time the show is over, what my goal is to hope that you'll leave with a head full of advice and a heart full of laughter. I think we can do it. You know, there are comments. I cannot see them, but the executive producer is in the other room, in the other studio, and he can see all the comments. So we are a live show. If you want to comment on something, keep it real, people, but keep it smooth. Be cool. All right. So if you want to ask a question of Brian or me, just type it in. It will pop up on the screen, and we will be able to see it, and we will answer your question. So keep in mind, just click that comment button, and the executive producer will put it up. Okay. Let's talk about getting booked on the show. If you'd like to appear on the show, or if you know someone that wants to promote themselves, their career, showcase their film, their book, whatever they want to showcase, you can reach out to us via the website. It's questionrealityradioshow.com, questionrealityradioshow.com, or you can email me directly. My email address is priscillaleona@yahoo.com, priscillaleona@yahoo.com. And I have a little itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini favor. If you like our show and you like the guest that's on the show, which I think you love every guest on the show, I'm very selective. If you enjoy the guests in the show, please consider subscribing to our social media sites, both the guest and my social media sites. And once you have done that, I will reciprocate. And we all, in this day and age, you know, everybody needs a little thumb. Everybody needs a new subscriber. So I will make sure that once we see your name, we will subscribe to you and follow you and give you little thumbs up all the time, little hearts. My YouTube channel, which I would love for you to subscribe to, is at my name, at Priscilla Leona. LinkedIn, X, and TikTok at Priscilla Leona. Facebook page at Priscilla Leona. Facebook page questionrealityshow.com. Question Reality Show, sorry. And the website again is questionrealityradioshow.com. And you can go to our archive pages and watch any of our shows. If you missed any of them, any of the episodes, we've been on again from 2003 until 2025. And if you missed any of the episodes, you can catch up. We've had people in all walks of life, producers, directors, again, Oscar nominees, Emmy Award winners, Grammy Award winners, Tony Award winners, reality TV stars. And if you feel like that's a career that you want to look up or pursue any of those types of careers in that category, please go to the YouTube. I think we basically have downloaded most of the shows. I'm almost positive. So you would go to YouTube and type at PriscillaLeona.com. Real quick, my tip with, as you saw, I kept saying my YouTube channel at Priscilla Leona, Facebook at Priscilla Leona, website. The reason that I keep saying that is because I want to talk about branding. Okay. When you are starting out, you really need to be careful about your branding. As a matter of fact, even if you're in the intermediate level of your career, it's very important that people can find you. As you know, we're a society now where you're lucky if people will spend 5 seconds looking for you, but you got to keep it consistent. First choice is always going to be your name. Okay. johnsmith.com, at johnsmith.com on all your socials. Because if you start putting different names on all of your sites, people will not be able to find you. They just won't. And I understand that a lot of times the names are gone. But for example, if you're an actor, you can do John Smith Actor or actorjohnsmith.com. But try to keep all of your social media consistent. People will go to Google, they'll type your name, and it should all pop up. If you go and you try to type a celebrity, most of the time, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, LinkedIn, TikTok, it's all there and it's all under their name. If you are not doing that, you are going to lose potential fans, potential followers. You're not going to be able to promote your stuff properly. So I would highly recommend it, as does every single award winner that comes on the show. Keep it consistent, people. All right. We're moving on now. That's my tip. All right. Okay. So let me tell you how I met the guests today. As you all know, if you tune in regularly, I am a judge and screener on multiple film festivals. And one of them is the Sholo Film Festival, which is based out of Arizona. And the two people that run the festival are Martina Webster and Delia Faulkner. Oh, God, I hope that's her last name. I always forget her last name. I apologize. But I was asked to come to Arizona and be a red carpet interviewer for the film festival in 2023. So while I was, mind you, I interviewed 52 people in 2 hours. Oh my God, I thought my teeth were going to fall out. It was not a pretty sight, people. There were white strings coming down from the roof of my mouth. I don't know. I said, I will never do that again. But it was fun while I did it. Well, while I was interviewing, there was this gentleman who was one of the film festival award winners, I believe. His name was Brian O'Connor. And I just loved him immediately. First of all, he's extremely handsome, so I had to side eye him. I had to side eye on while my husband, who was filming, wasn't looking. But he was just so gentlemanly and eloquent and extremely mysterious. And I said, oh my God, we got to have him on the show. So that's what we did. So from 2023, we finally were able to get him on the show tonight. So let me tell you a little bit about him. Okay, so, and you'll see a picture of him right now because his pictures are coming on the screen. If the executive producer is listening. Okay, there we go. All right. I'm off the screen. Okay. So this is Brian O'Connor. Did I tell you? He's a handsome little guy, right? Very handsome. He is a storytelling force, I'm telling you. And he is a Second City Training Academy graduate, and he's also an option screenwriter. Now, I'm going to let him tell you what that means if you don't already know. He loves crafting tales with emotional stakes. He's inspired by films where ordinary folks become extraordinary heroes. And that's what I loved when I read that, because those are the types of films that I love as well. And he has, oh, there you go. Look, he was at the Show Low Film Festival, top 100 for Fest for the Best. There you go, my Show Low Film Festival, which I am judge and screener. So submit. We're still accepting film submissions. So showlowfilmfestival.com. All right, so I was inspired by what he said, that he loves films about ordinary folks who become extraordinary heroes. He has over 460,000 YouTube views and global festival screenings. And Brian has directed and produced 4 animated shorts, and they oh my God, these titles, I'm telling you, I love these titles. Okay, so one is The Seeds of Change, which you're seeing the poster for now, and he did The Seasons of Sagaro Sam. There you go, look at that, beautiful graphics. We got to find out who did the graphics. And let's see, he did, now this is my favorite, I got to tell you, Very Lemmy Christmas. Because as you know, I produce Christmas movies out the wing wang. So I love working on Christmas films. So he did A Very Lemmy Christmas. And also he did Orange Purpose. Love that title. That could also be some street drugs. I was thinking about that. I was watching NCIS New Orleans, and they had those little packs of I don't know, acid or some kind of drug, and it was called Orange. And I happened to be reading this. I said, Orange Purpose. Oh my gosh. Okay. And now his screenwriting credits include Rick. Here's another great title. Mick Was a Hurricane, and Arthur and the Cat. I love these titles. You know, titles are very important. You can grab an audience immediately with a title. So please think very carefully about choosing titles for your films. Now, Brian, what I liked about him as well is he sums up his philosophy with this. I love this. He said, I'm a man of few words and try not to use them up early in the day. Don't you love that? I love it. Thankfully, his scripts do a lot of the talking. So he does not have to do a lot of talking. So without further ado, let's meet this international man of mystery, Mr. Brian O'Connor. Where are you, Brian? Okay, you're over there. Yeah,
Hey.
yeah. Make them big. There you go. And I'm on the right. There we go. Make me. How are you with your
I'm
great
great.
lighting?
Oh, well, thank you.
My God. I see you got something in the background. Is that the Seeds of Change? Is that a poster? Or what is that?
Yeah, so I like to do the canvas artwork for the shorts that I made. So the
Oh,
one
you do them.
behind me, yeah,
You did all of those, all the graphics that we just showed. Were you a graphic animator in a previous life, or what's your background?
no artistic talent whatsoever. So I have to. That's why I have to get people to help me. That's
Ah.
why I collaborate with people.
Oh, I thought you said that you did all of that yourself, because I thought, wow, how did you? So you just say what you want and then you hire people to do it.
Right.
Good. That's the way to go. Now let's talk about the animated short, The Seeds of Change. I think that's the most recent project.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I heard it is storming the film festivals with its, and it has a soundtrack that's also available on, what is it, Spotify, Apple Music, and iTunes, right?
Right.
So did you create, how were you involved with the music? Did you write any of them, or are these musical artists that contributed to the film?
That is the Seeds of, I dubbed it the Seeds of Change Orchestra, which is really one man. His name is Darwin Oliver. He's an amazing musician, writer, guitar player, multi-instrumentalist. He's actually done the music for 3 out of the 4 of my animated shorts.
Okay.
So we were literally Zooming, going back and forth about the music itself. And, I said to him, like, your stuff is so soulful. Have you ever tried getting it on Spotify or anything like that? And he's like, yeah, I should, but no, so when we got done with the film and everything, I was like, all right, I hope he's okay with it. I'm going to do it and I'm going to figure it out,
Oh, and did you figure it out? You figured it out all by yourself, how to get it on Spotify, Apple Music, and iTunes?
Yeah, it was pretty much, hit the Google monster and go to work. And,
well, why don't you tell people who don't know how to do it? Give us a little, some tips. How do you do it?
My tip is just keep looking. Yeah. So there are many different go-between companies that take care of all the details. So I chose a company called DistroKid.
Yeah, very good.
And what they do is it's basically you load everything in there and then they take care of the details for you.
Now, when you say load everything, what are you talking about? The lyrics, the sheet music? Do you have to provide a copy of the music? What do you have to send them?
Right. So you're sending little, the songs themselves in the little MP4, formats, and adding lyrics. Only one of the songs on the Seeds of Change actually has lyrics. The other ones are instrumental. Put in some artwork for it to show when the music's playing. So I'm not expecting a ton of monthly listeners or, any sales on iTunes. It's just something else to talk about, when I'm doing this, when I'm going to the film festivals, when I'm meeting people. So
you just uploaded all of this to DistroKid, and then they are the ones who put it on Spotify, Apple Music, and iTunes. And was there a fee involved for each platform?
And that's part of why I just chose this company, is they had multiple levels. If I was a small studio or, my own label, I should say, maybe I pay for unlimited, but, for me, it was just one download, one group of files, and off it went. And then it was the weirdest thing to see it pop up.
Wow.
When it did.
So if we went to iTunes, I buy all my songs on iTunes. So if I went to iTunes, what would I type in to see the song? What are the names of the songs that were uploaded?
So the opening is a Magical Breeze. There are 3 versions. Balthazar is one of our leads in that. Balthazar's theme with a guitar only, Balthazar's theme with strings. Portia, our magical pumpkin, is the shimmer that when she when she's creating stories, the sound she makes, and then the finale, which sums up the entire theme of the film, which is "We are all just we." We're all one. That's the one song with the lyrics. So
Now that we've been talking about tips and advice, but the animated short, "The Seeds of Change," what is that actually about? Tell us. Tell us about the animated short.
sure,
You mentioned Portia. I love it already. One of my favorite names.
it's so it's a story by John McCartney, a friend of mine here in the Phoenix area, an amazing writer. It's a beautiful little story of kindness and of acceptance. Just to sum it up, a mute musician embraces their true self with the help of a magical pumpkin and a talking squirrel. So it's about acceptance, both of yourself and of others who aren't like you. You know, it has a non-bullying theme. It's you know, it has a very, especially when we open, you know, you think you're getting like a children's kind of tale, and then we bring in, we throw a little history at you. Portia and Balthazar were two characters from The Merchant of Venice, and then it becomes something totally different at the end, where Chad the bullies Balthazar, but Portia's with Portia's help, he overcomes that, and he overcomes it with kindness. So just a sweet story. A nice
I love that. And you also are in the middle. We're going to see a little video clip of that later, so tune in, stay with us. Also, you're in the middle of an adaptation of Child Soldier, which was based on Ding Atim's memoir, Jumping Over the Ram. Now, I have no idea who Ding Atim is or Jumping Over the Ram, so tell us all about that.
Okay. Yeah. Jumping Over the Ram is Dang Atim's story of how he was a child soldier in Sudan back in the 80s and 90s. I don't know what you were doing when you were like 8, 9, 10. I know I wasn't fighting a war. I wasn't running through the jungle with a shoe on one foot, my other foot wrapped in cloth. And it's just, you know, you mentioned the type of stories that attract me. This is one. You know, Dang went through hell and back, and he ended up being one of the first lost boys of Sudan, which is what these kids were called, to come to this country. So he ended up coming to this country and going to high school, and you know, he lives in Phoenix, which is how I got to know him. How I ended up doing this adaptation is the author he worked with, Ken Wein. We're friends. I adapted one of Ken's books a few years ago. He sent me the book. He said, would you adapt it? Would you like to adapt it? And I said, it's an amazing story. It's tragic, but no. And that's what he did. He's like, why? I was like, I don't know. That middle-aged white guy should be telling this story.
Yeah.
You know, and then there are other reasons, right? And he's like, well, you know, I've told Dang about you, and you know, I've given him some of your work, and you know, he's excited, and you know, at least meet him. Yeah. And I said, all right, I can at least do that. And so we Zoomed. Just an open, beautiful human being, gregarious, humble. This
after
guy,
after all of that,
he held on to his humanity. And
wow.
And I said, you know what? There's my angle. That now I can relate to it. If I can show that side of it, put it through hell, but he comes out on the end, the beautiful human he is, then I can do this.
Wow. And what are you adapting it into? A short film, a documentary?
So feature? It's a feature, full-length feature. Okay. Yeah, it's, you know, I'm marketing it now, you know, querying producers and directors, and, you know, just wading through the sea of no's till I find one kernel of, well, maybe, you know, and then try to bust through that.
What is it a hard process to do an adaptation of a book?
It's hard in some senses. It's easier than coming up with something new in others because you have a roadmap in front of you.
Right.
You know, the book itself.
Right.
You know, the hard part is figuring out what to keep in, what to take out, how much you can change. Because you know his story is amazing without any changes. But you know, a film is not a book,
Yeah.
so there are things that aren't going to work for the film. So it's a matter of staying true to the idea and his spirit, even if everything in it isn't exactly, you know, lined up exactly 1, 2, 3, 4. Like,
Right. Are there people who do this professionally, just do adaptations of books for film?
Like anything else in every business, you get pigeonholed, right? You get a reputation. You know, people see your work in that style, and they gravitate towards it, right?
Yeah. And
They
if
want
you're a
to do it
good
again.
adapter, I would imagine they'd hire you, because I think that's would be an extremely hard thing, and you got to work closely with the original writer, correct? And the person the story's about. So that would require so many meetings, because I imagine he's still in Sudan, right? Or is he here now?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay.
He's stayed in the States, although he travels. He's, you know, he has his businesses back home in South Sudan and all that. But you hit on something right there just now. You know, I've been doing this for like 10 years, writing, right? I've come to accept not everybody's gonna like everything I put out, right?
Right.
So if I send it to you and you don't like it, so be it. I still
Yeah.
like it, right?
Yeah.
I don't get
Mhm.
nervous, right, when other people read it. You know what? The night he hopped on a Zoom with me and we read it, I have a little Tuesday night group that I get together with, and we read each other's work and share comments and that. And then he joined us this one night. I was more nervous that night because you know
Ah,
here I'm
yeah.
telling his life story.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my God. Now, with an adaptation, when you're doing that, I would imagine there's a lot of legality involved, right? Do you have a entertainment lawyer that's on retainer for you to work out credits and things like that?
In this case, no. Basically, because I have Dang, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if it was me going to somebody else, like if I read somebody's memoir or an article in the New Yorker and I want to tell their story, yeah, you know, there's gaining life rights. You know, there's a myriad of legal hurdles that I would have hired an attorney to help
Right.
me jump over. But
So
in this
once
case, no.
when you finish adapting the film, are you going to take any kind of like have any kind of contract? Because I mean, you have to take the film and present it to people, and what if they decide they want to go with your version and they want to, you know, go with the screenplay? What will you do then? Will you ask for credit for that, or what are you doing it for other than tell the story?
Yeah. You know what?
Business wise, I guess.
Business wise, you know, just here's the funny part is, you know, when I wrote this, I really thought, all right, I'll leave it with Ken. You know, I grew to love this story so much. That's what I was like, all right, I'm going to start putting this out there.
Right.
Like I
So
said,
you want a credit for your work because you did something and it's a passion, a love, and I would imagine you'd want to, you know, have your name on it as, you know, adapted by or whatever your titles are.
right. And you know, and the funny part is these things are never done until they're filmed, and maybe, you know, even then they are never done. So, you know, the odds of me running with this all the way to being made, you know, probably low. You know, in a lot of cases, you're given, let's say a producer sells it and I get the opportunity to do maybe 2 rewrites, because it will be rewritten
Right,
over and
right,
over and over and
right.
over. I'm going to do my best to stay on this project. I'm going
Yeah,
to fight
yeah.
like hell to keep my name on it. But
Right.
in truth, Dang's story is so amazing. It deserves to be told, even if my name isn't attached to it.
Oh, okay. All right. So, as a Second City, we're going to go away from that now. As a Second City Training Academy graduate, how has improvisation influenced your storytelling and your screenwriting approach?
Oh, that's a good question. The hard part of that is when I went through the training program, that was last century.
Last century. Oh
Last
my
century.
goodness. I
So
think we've lived through a couple centuries now, haven't we? At least 2.
yeah, just in the last couple of years, we've lived through a couple
Yeah.
centuries. It
Yeah.
feels like, absolutely. But you know what? The tenets of improv are things you take with you every day in life. Move the story forward. Say yes to things. I say yes to things in my own life. Not necessarily on stage or whatever, but say yes. Be open. Be a partner. Collaborate. I've said collaborate a couple times here. That's the biggest thing with me. You have to be flexible. Your idea is great, but it could become better if this happens. Seeds of change. John, the screenwriter, was so flexible. Tony Pham, his studio is TKMV Studio. He came with ideas that were different than what John wanted, what I thought would happen. But you know what? They worked. Darwin brought an end song in that was totally different than any of us pictured. And in fact, it was so different, we had to stop Tony and have him redesign the Balthazar's outfit, because I couldn't hear that song coming out of the outfit that Tony had written for him. So I was so lucky on that film, on The Seeds of Change, that everybody was willing to work with everybody else. And it made it the sum of the parts, that whole saying, which, man, a few words, man, I'm running out of them already.
No, God, I want a new question. You got more words to come out. Your stories often, from what I read, they often, and what I love, is they often focus on ordinary people becoming extraordinary heroes. And so, what draws you to this theme? I know what makes me want to watch these music, and how do you make it resonate with audiences?
Man, you have some stunning questions here, Priscilla.
I'm a deep thinker. I'm pensive. I just ask the questions that I think that people would really want to know, because I know why I like these particular themes and why I watch these movies. And it's very simple. It makes me feel so happy that I cry, and I love to watch things that cry. So when I'm getting ready to watch one of those Hallmark movies, especially the Christmas movies, I have my little napkin so I can dab my eyes, but I'm all set up because I know I'm going to cry. So that's why I watch it. So, what draws you to this theme? Why are you, sometimes it's somebody, something happened in their childhood, something happened in their teen, their adult, that makes them gravitate to this theme. So, and how do you make that resonate with audiences? I know what Hallmark does. What do you do?
Well, who doesn't love an underdog story, right? Again, going back to last century, Rocky didn't meet his goal. He didn't win the championship, but he met his internal goal of surviving, right? And who doesn't love an underdog story, and who doesn't want to see your next door neighbor become something that you never knew that they were, right?
And what about little Portia? What did you do that's going to make audience resonate with her? Is she the heroine in the story?
She's going back to that, a magical breeze blows into their valley, and it turns Portia from just a pumpkin in a patch into a speaking magical pumpkin, and Hector,
Ooh.
the squirrel, into her cohort.
Okay.
And the breeze blew all the stories ever told in history into her seeds. Which is why it's called the Seeds of Change.
Wow.
So
I
she
love that.
she tells Hector that's where she found his name, because
Oh.
Achilles killed Hector, and Paris avenged Hector's death by killing Achilles, and
Oh.
Joan of Arc went into battle, and Don Quixote, tilted at windmills. So her stories, which, spoiler, when she splats, Balthazar eats the seeds, and that's
Oh my God.
they become one, and that's where he gains his voice from.
I want to see it already. I'm excited. You've reeled me in. I'm an audience member. You've already answered that question.
You're
Now,
awesome.
with over 460,000 YouTube views, and then you have global festival screenings, your animated short films clearly strike a chord, I would believe, or struck a chord for them to constantly be accepted. What's been the most rewarding reaction that you've received from your viewers?
It's just, it's just, when I say yes to things, it's putting stuff out there and being open to whatever comes back to you. And again, good or bad, it's been, like you said, the vast majority of the response I've gotten back has been great. And they're all different. You mentioned the Very Lemmy Christmas. That was a story that kind of sat in my brain. 15-year-old me watched Bing Crosby and David Bowie on Bing Crosby's Christmas.
I remember that. Yeah.
Back in 1977, I'm 15 years old, and I'm like, this is the weirdest duo in the history of duos, right? So all these years later, I was waiting for somebody to kind of have fun with it, make fun of it a little bit. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I'm just gonna have to do it. I'm not seeing anybody else do it. So it's Bing and Bowie are still singing together in heaven, and until Lemmy from Motorhead shows up and hijacks the session. So.
Oh my God. You know who I'm going to tell about this? I'm going to tell Chris Crosby. He's a friend of mine. He is Bing Crosby's nephew. And I was talking to him at my Christmas party about how wild it was to see Bing Crosby and David Bowie singing together. It was just, and so he told me, which I'm not going to share, but he told me personal stories about, what Bing had said about that particular thing. But one of the things I can tell you is that Bing Crosby thought that was one of his happiest collaborations in music with David Bowie. He really respected, and it's so weird because Bing Crosby and then David Bowie, you just wouldn't think that the two of them, but they got along very well. And Bing shared with his family that was one of his most famous sing-alongs, as he called it. Now, the Seeds of Change, as we talked about, is making waves at film festivals. I cannot wait to go. I'm wondering, did you enter it? Oh, I think you did. Because as a judge and screener, I saw it on the list of the Sholo Film Festival. And I was supposed to review it, but I had to recuse myself because you were coming on the show. But I do think I'm going to watch that though now. But anyway, it's making waves. Did you enter it in my other film festival, Tarzana Film Festival? Did I tell you to do that?
No, but is it still open? I definitely will.
Oh yeah. Okay. We'll talk about that. So it's making waves at all the film festivals. And I wanted to know if you could share the inspiration behind this animated short and its unique soundtrack. Like, what was your initial inspiration?
All right. So again, John McCarney is the writer. This was his story. His daughter was a writer, a poet, a lyricist. Write beautiful songs and poems, but she would never show it to anybody. You know, he would say to her, you got to get out there, find someone to write music for you, find your Bernie Taupin, you Elton John, and she wouldn't do that. And he was frustrated by that. And where he lived in California at the time, he used to drive by this pumpkin patch on a hill every day. And he would look at the pumpkins up there tethered to the mountain. And he would think, oh, that's like my daughter. She's stuck on the mountain like those pumpkins are. And that's where the story came from.
Wow. I love that. Do you see how all these stories, all these movies and television shows that we see, there's always a story behind them, which was the original inspiration. And most of the time we just don't even find it out, or we might read about it decades later. But there are always stories that are so interesting to find out eventually. Now, with you adapting Child Soldier from, is it Ding-a-Tim? I love that name, Ding-a-Tim, from memoir. How do you approach the challenge of bringing this powerful and personal story to the screen? I mean, what did you, how do you approach that? Like, where's your mind? And what would be, if somebody was attempting to adapt a film for the first time, what would you recommend their approach be?
My recommendation, my tip would be to find their way in to the story that's different, because we're all going to look at it differently. For me, it was wanting to show his humanity and how he held on to that. In all honesty, this was the hardest thing I've ever written, just because it's so different than my life, right? In upstate New York, growing up at that age, it was hard for me to put myself in his shoes. And when you write something like this, there's a part of you that goes into it, whether it's stories from my own life at that time, or your own self finds its way into the story. And in this case, he's walking through miles through the jungle with one shoe on. I don't even walk around my house barefoot, right now. So
I hear ya.
That was the hardest thing for me, and the biggest challenge was to relate to the story. And that's it. And just to go back to saying being open, the improv thing, you have to be open to everything. How do I find myself in? How does that actually relate to my life? How do I show this without telling it? Right. It's just digging deep and finding that story, like you said, behind the story.
Now, based on what you've told me so far, this to me could also be a documentary. Why did they choose to go film rather than documentary? Because I can see this. I can see a lot of archival footage with this particular story, and then Ding telling the story, and then maybe villagers telling the story. Why did they choose to do a film rather than a documentary?
I don't really know the answer to that, to be very honest.
So they never said to you, well, we were thinking about doing a documentary, but now we want to do a film. They didn't say anything about it.
No.
Because can't you see it yourself? Can't you see this being a documentary?
Absolutely.
With the content? Yeah, I would love that. Okay.
Now, Dang is amazing. The people he's met over the years, and
Mhm.
one of the people that he met during this time, when he was 15, towards the end of his time, before he came to this country, was a young Anderson Cooper. 25-year-old Anderson Cooper interviewed him,
Oh my
and
gosh.
was part of the memoir.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Did he get asylum, political asylum? How did he get here?
Yeah, he applied to come here. He was brought in and lived with a host family here in Phoenix. Went to high school, graduated from high school, went to college.
Wow.
Is an American citizen. So asylum because he was leaving war-torn part of the world.
Well, I just had a thought. I'm an idea man. I'm always thinking I'm an idea man. I was thinking that if you're when you're at the point where you're going to be submitting to film festivals, and I imagine that will come eventually, if you submit it to a film festival that, like Sundance or Tribeca or wherever you're going to enter it, if you win an award, I think a great thing for you to offer them is for him to come and, be a speaker, like tell a little bit about his story, like live, if you win an award. Don't you think that's a good idea?
That was awesome.
I love it. So if you do it at the Show Low Film Festival, I'm going to talk to Martina and ask if that's a possibility. Now, with you, what can audiences expect from your new screenplay, Wisdom? And how does it differ from your previous works?
You can expect an everyday hero doing extraordinary things.
Again. I love it.
So this one,
what's it about? Yeah.
It's and here I said I didn't know if a white guy should be telling Deng's story. Here I am, a guy telling a woman's story of friendship.
What's it about? Tell us a little tiny bit about it.
So it's a story about Sally Wisdom. So what I wanted to do is take, without getting too political on it here, take the feeling that my wife had, we both had, but especially my wife on election day. She was gutted, with the results. And even a week later, just down in the dumps.
Recently for the 2024 election? Okay.
Right. And, and disappointed in her friends that maybe didn't think the same way, so I tried to take those feelings that she had and things she's been saying over the years of women supporting women. And I heard a song by one of my favorite bands from the 80s and 90s called the Bodines, called Runaway. And it's about a woman that kills her abusive husband and goes on the run. So I married these two ideas. Election day, Sally Wisdom kills her boyfriend, has to go on the run, thinks she needs to survive on her own. That's her only goal, get out and survive. But she comes to find she needs friendship, and she needs her sister, although her sister is one of the police that's chasing her. So it's a woman on the run. It's a story of friendship. And then when I say you put some of yourself into it, us very ordinary white guys, for whatever reason, seem to have this confidence. And when we decide to do something, we do it, and we're like, screw it. I'm not worrying about the consequences. I'll deal with it.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
And half the time they don't come.
Right.
But so I tried to imbue every character in this with that feeling, right? So all the women characters are like confident white guys for no reason, and all the men characters are, they've overdone it and they're toxic and they get their comeuppance. Several of these guys out on top of Keith, the boyfriend that she kills, they get their comeuppance. They don't get killed. She's not a monster, but she's gonna
rack them up a little bit, right?
She makes them pay with their shame. Is that a
feature film or a short?
Another feature, right?
It's another
Yeah.
feature. Okay, all right.
Right.
Now,
So
I'm excited about that one because I'm all about the kick-ass females. So very excited. What stage is that in right now?
I literally was just listening to it to spell check it because I just hit the like fade out on the first draft. So it's really
Huh?
early on right now.
Oh, I'm
Um,
excited. Where are you shooting that? In Arizona?
you know what? That's so far down the line.
I always think far down the line. I want to know where it's shooting.
um,
Darn. Well, you haven't even come up with the rest of the story, so who knows where it's shooting. But most likely it'll be Arizona because, it's easier. That's where you live.
well,
You don't want to try
without
to
giving up
LA.
too much,
Mhm.
she ends up in the Pacific Northwest. So
Oh.
it could be up there. And I
Okay.
haven't literally
You haven't
first
even
draft, I
thought
haven't
of
looked that far yet.
you haven't even fleshed it out yet. Now, your philosophy, because as I said, I love what you said. Your philosophy of being a man of few words contrasts with the verbosity of screenwriting, right? So, how do you reconcile that in your creative process? I guess it all comes out. You don't like to say it; you like to write it, right? Is that how it works with you?
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the things that attracted me to the style of writing. I went through Second City's training. I did a little theater work in and around Chicago when I was younger, and some voiceover work. And I came to realize at the time, 2 years later, that I didn't need to be the center of attention, right? And I
Yeah.
kind of gave it up, right?
Yeah.
Flash forward 20 years, I kind of missed having a creative outlet, and thought I had some stories to tell. I didn't plan on screenplays. I kind of fell into it. But when I read the Usual Suspects was the first screenplay that I read, I really liked the style because it's concise. It's a lot of white space,
Is that the one with Kaiser Suse?
Yep, Kaiser Sose.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird movie. I
Yeah.
loved it though.
Exactly. So I love that style of writing. And in school, I was always the kid that if the teacher said the paper had to be 10 pages, I started mine halfway down on page 1 and I ended halfway down on page 10. So
Oh my
I was
God.
always less verbose than a lot of folks. So the less verbose thing works for me.
Yeah, because you can get it all out in screenwriting, say everything you want to say. So what lessons have you learned from directing and producing for animated shorts, and how have these experiences shaped your future projects?
The lessons are mainly, first and foremost, to just be flexible, to be willing to change. And it doesn't matter if it's a 3-minute short or haven't done a feature yet. It's going to change, and you have to be adaptable, and you have to rely on the others and trust your artists. I had to trust Tony was going to come up with a fantastic set of characters the same way I had to trust John was going to write a beautiful script, and trust Darwin was going to come through with some amazing music. So that's the first thing. Right now, I'm kind of, especially after watching Wicked, back in November, how cinematic.
Oh, you went to where did you see it?
Just locally here in town, but I've seen it play several times.
Was it the tour? Was it the touring one with with Ariana Grande, or did you see it a local theater doing a production?
Locally here, ASU Gamage.
Okay.
It seems like every other year. So I've seen it multiple times, but
Yeah.
the film version, the opening is so much more cinematic than the stage version, even though it's just a slightly different version of it. And especially the ending, the song Defying Gravity. I mean, I was ready to go to war for LP. So right now, that with wisdom, that's been the focus, right? I want a super cinematic open, a cinematic ending, satisfying and fulfilling and emotional. And then it's just finding everything else in between that can build momentum from one scene to the next scene to the next scene. So,
any tips for new screenwriters?
Yes, don't go broke trying to become a screenwriter. That's
what do you mean by that?
There are so many different companies that you could literally go broke just trying to learn how to do this and how to navigate the process and who to meet, and never when you get a producer contact you and says, I just need $4,000 and I can get this film made. Don't trust them. But you just have to write every day, and you have to be open to stories, and you have to attend Zooms, and you have to read books. I'm reading one called Pre-Writing Your Screenplay right now.
What does that mean? Pre-writing your screenplay. What's that mean?
It's everything from taking the concept, the idea of the story that you want to write about, breaking it down into small steps, going through the characters, going through the outlining. I'm only about a third of the way through, so I can't say all the way how it ends, but read books, read articles, attend film festivals, get out there and network, meet other people, meet your fellow writers, meet folks that are making films locally in your area. There's no one way to do this.
Now you do. Now I liked how you were talking about not spending a lot of money, because there are people ready to rip you off. But what is your advice for people who, because you do have to have a software. I don't know if there's more than that, because they used to have a monopoly, but it's called Final Draft. And back in the day when it first came out and I bought it, it was like $900. And then they just kept doing update. I think you can get it for cheaper now. And I'm not sure, but I think there are competitors. But back in the day, that's all the studios would accept, our screenplays that were created with Final Draft. What's going on in the world with that now?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Final Draft is still the standard in which if you're going to be a professional, you're going to have to use. And I actually bought that initially. I used Final Draft at first. There are other, with the way the world is right now, there are other options that.
Like what? What other software is there?
I would use Writer Duet. Because the things that I liked about Writer Duet is it's full-time updating, meaning if I write on a web browser version, it shows up in my app, the updates. If I write in my apps, if you write with a partner, you could do it real time. So that was one of the attractions.
Is that something you just go, is that in the app store? You would go and get the app, or do you have to go to a website? Where would you get Writer Duet?
WriterDuet.com.
Okay. And was that expensive?
A little bit, yeah. But
not as expensive as Final Draft, right?
You know what? Final Draft is really, it's not the only one. There are other ones. There are Fade In and Celtics and Movie Magic. There are other ones also. So
Final Draft will accept the studios would accept these, right? Or with the formatting and everything. Because I don't know how it is. I'm not a screenwriter, but I know that screenwriters used to tell me at networking events, oh my God, I don't understand what the big deal is, because the studios, my agent went to make a pitch and they said, this isn't in Final Draft, and they wouldn't even take the meeting. And I said, that's ridiculous as long as it's a script and it looks right. But apparently, because they only use the final draft, they want you to upload it and submit it so that it can go into their final draft. And then whatever they're going to do with it, they can make changes rather than going back and forth. Is that still true?
Right. Still true. And I, in truth, I think everything was kind of built off the final draft model, right? So it's you just all the shortcuts and all the tabs and everything are pretty much the same as final draft. So when and if the time comes, I need to go change the final draft, it's not like I'm starting all over again.
Right.
But just for example, for the people that have to have final draft, that will give you the stink eye if you don't turn it in on the final draft. I actually can export my script in final draft.
Into final draft. That's good. So the writer duet will allow you to export into final draft. That is really good to know. Now, as an option, now please explain, people are not going to know what an option screenwriter is, but you as an option screenwriter, what advice would you give to aspiring screenwriters or writers navigating the complexity of turning their script into reality? Because there's a difference between being a writer and then an option screenwriter. So can you explain that and then answer that question?
Right. There's you're writing, you're option, you're produced, you're in production, you're produced, the levels never stop. Right. So an option is when a producer comes to a writer and says, hey, I like your story. I want to see what I can do with it, basically, see if I can sell it. So they take a time frame, a year, 18 months, and basically pay a small fee to have that right, to see if they can sell it to a studio, bring on talent, bring on a director, other partners.
If they can't in that time frame, it reverts back to the original screenwriter.
Correct.
And what if they can't do it, it reverts back to you, but then they can make it happen. Do you option it? Can you option it out to the same people, or is there a legality involved with that?
All about the relationship that you build, right? And most, if this person took a chance on me and couldn't make it happen in 12 months and came back 2 years later and goes, I'm still thinking about your work. I still love your work. I think I want to take another shot at it. Can I do it? Go for it. You know what? You care about me. You like my writing. You appreciate me. I appreciate you.
Wow, that's sweet.
And just the simplest words.
Now, as an option screenwriter, what work got optioned? What was the name of your work that was optioned, and what happened?
So that was Ken Wein. I mentioned the author that worked with Dang to write his story. It was one of his books. His book was titled Times That Try the Soul of Man. It was historical fiction set in New York City, the Alphabet City area of New York, down where Rent, ironically, was set back around the turn of the century. Back there, it ties into 9/11 and all that. I said these things are never done. The story changed, the title changed. I think Dangerous Times was the title that we landed on, because we all live in dangerous times, whether it's now or back in 2001. So yeah, it's kind of a gritty thriller, but it's historical fiction because most of the story actually happened in this part of New York City. It's just other elements, again, making it a little more cinematic. Of course. That brought it back. So producer option that. You know what? Nothing ever happened with it.
Mhm.
Producer still says, I'm going to make this thing one day. And it was my first one. And my first
Yeah.
option, you know what? It's yours. It's yours until, until you can do it, until you do it or you don't.
Oh, that's nice. That was sweet. Now, looking back on your journey, what's the one moment or milestone that truly affirmed your passion for storytelling? Can you remember that?
You know, excuse me. Probably just getting to fade out on that first feature, you know, that first screenplay. You know, because you hear the stories of people that start and stop and whatever it was, you know.
Right.
It was, you know, I haven't gone back and read it in many years. It's, I probably will cringe at a lot of it, but I got it done, and I hit fade
right.
out, and I sent it to a friend who he had stopped writing. As a matter of fact, I'm like, you know, I know you're not writing anymore, but I'm starting. And would you read this for me? You know, and he came back with just enough positivity that made me dive in and keep going.
Right.
So that's another tip for anybody considering this. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I've been at this 11, maybe 12 years. I figure I got another 8 years to go before I turn into a 20-year overnight success.
Oh, well, that's good. Oh my God. You know, you said something about getting it made. As a judge and screener, I just automatically start. I'm definitely going to give you a 1 at the very least for making it. And then it's all about, you know, the production value, the acting, the music, et cetera, et cetera. Up to 10 stars is how the film festival circuit works to decide whether or not. And then I have to click, and it makes me neurotic. I have to click, is this award worthy? Is this not? There's just, I hate clicking the ones because everything that gets made is a passion for someone. But unfortunately, I think being a judge, I see so many things slop together where they're not thinking about, I mean, at the end, whoever you are, you got to look and say, these actors are not telling my story correctly. The music is so loud that, you know, with it, that's a problem that a lot of people who submit films, they don't take the time to get a sound mixer or someone that knows not to play the sound so loud. And you don't have to have music in every single scene. So that's my tip on that. Don't be having your music in every single scene. You don't need it. If the actors are strong, they're going to be able to tell the story. And please, it is so important that you choose great actors. Oh, we have a question. Oh, how can one ensure that their work is not stolen? It seems so easy for someone to change something here or there. Oh, that's a question for you.
There are a couple ways, but the first way is to realize stories have been around forever. The odds are, if you having the first person to ever think of this, are minuscule. So there's always going to be similarities in people's stories. So even if you think you've been stolen, you know, somebody stole your work, you know what?
It's hard to prove. It's hard to prove. Yeah, because there's something. It's called paradox thinking, and that's when there are. And this happened to me one time. I am not a screenwriter, but it was part of a course, and I had to come up, you know, with an idea. So I wrote this little storyline, and this it ended up going into a full idea for a television show. And I submitted it to, because that was part of the process, I submitted it to the Screen Actors Guild.
Mhm.
Lo and behold, a couple years, I'd say maybe a year later or 2 years, I can't remember. Psych! The show was on, and it was exactly everything I wrote. And I said, oh my God, they stole my story. Because, people at the Screenwriters Guild, they're aspiring screenwriters. So I just knew it. I said, that's my story. And then someone who is a friend of mine, I have lots of celebrity friends, thankfully, and one of them said to me, Priscilla, you got to realize when people are writing scripts, there's something called paradox thinking. You can be thinking of an idea and writing a script, and someone across the world can be writing the exact same thing. You don't know them, but it is that's how it is. So once I learned that, I said, oh my God, that's wild that, you could be writing the same exact story as someone else. I mean, down to every single detail, but it happens. But my advice is the way that you can try to protect your story is you send it to the Library of Congress, and you just mail the script, and you mail it to them. You also can mail it to yourself and never open it via registered mail. That is a way. And then, of course, the Screen Actors Guild, because they give you a certificate and they register the story. So that's the most really you can do. Also, when you take meetings, Brian, when you're pitching your script, you can ask them, not that they're going to do it, but you can ask them to sign an NDA. That's very common in the industry, in the studios.
Right. Yeah. And when you mentioned how you sent yours to the WGA, yeah. I literally was thinking, like, you just brought up another way, because the Writers Guild of America has both West Coast and East Coast versions offices, and they have different rules. But you submit to them, and basically that gives you a timestamp, and so that if anybody comes back and says, "Hey, he stole my idea," well, when did you start your idea? I started it in 2021. Well, he registered this script with us in 2020. So how did he steal your idea?
Right.
The copyrighted with the government, copyright.gov. You don't even have to mail it anymore, though. You just upload it.
Oh, you don't have to. Yeah. Oh my God, that was a long time ago. I did that because I came here to go to UCLA. And so that's the things that they taught us. I was at film school, and back then you had to mail it. So I'm old. So
you had to figure out how many brads to hole punch it, and how many do I do 3,
Yeah, that was part of the course. And I said, you really have to do this? And my teacher said, yes, absolutely have to do that. But then he also told me that no women would ever direct action films, and we see how that's not true. Now, each of your I wrote this question, and I guess I'll just ask it. I wrote, each of your animated shorts has a distinct style and a tone. So how do you decide on the visual and the narrative approach for each project? What do you do?
And that was all part of the collaboration. I'm broken record with that. So the first one is the Seasons of Saguaro Sam. That basically is a play on the idea that all our days here in Arizona look the same. The seasons don't change. So it's like a time lapse of a season over a day. And the sounds of that season are the soundtrack. The only thing that changes is we put Christmas lights on our saguaros. That's the only way you can tell it's winter. So I don't spend a whole lot of time on LinkedIn. I probably should spend more, but I decided to see what I could find on LinkedIn. And I searched Phoenix animators, And that's how I met Mi Cho, who did the animation for the seasons of Saguaro Sam. Explain the concept. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's how I'm picturing it. Give me back, come back with some ideas. And she just did these amazing illustrations. And then I'm like, all right, that's a great desert scene, but it's taking place in a neighborhood, right? Because we're gonna have to hear school buses and kids playing and fireworks. So then she came back with that. And so that one, it was me trusting Mi Cho was going to come up with a beautiful idea. She did the animation for Orange Man also. That one's kind of a weird and out there. The story was actually written originally for a horror producer.
Oh my gosh.
So it's very different than most, like 180 degrees different than the Seeds of Change, but it was written for a different audience. And so everything from the color scheme to the characters themselves were totally different. And a darker tone, a weirder tone, a little bit of supernatural, a little bit of horror. So it was me trusting Mi Cho and her boyfriend Greg. Drawing a blank on his last name. Sorry, Greg, if you're out there. Greg, a character designer and a sound technician. He's an animator himself. He did the character designs for Orange Purpose. It's trusting them that when I say, here's what Big Boy Pete should look like in my head, he comes back with something that's close enough, but has the spirit of what I suggested. All right, we got to take it from there. So, yeah, very different tones, very different looks. The Seeds of Change is 3D animation. The other three are all 2D animation. So,
and what's the difference between 3D and 2D for those who don't know?
So the 2Ds are hand drawn and animated. 3Ds are computer generated, where he's literally using the computer to build the character. It starts off with a drawing and with an illustration, and then he builds a model. Basically, gives the character a spine and muscles and, backbone, and then adds on, the next layer, which are the hair and the eyes and the outfits that they wear. And then makes them move.
I would think it was much easier to work with animated shorts than with real people. At least you can draw them, make them get a voiceover actor, and that's it. I love it. I think animated shorts is the way to go. What is your from I guess concept to completion? What's the most challenging part of creating an animated short, and how do you overcome it? Like, what are people going to have challenges with, and what can you do?
The biggest challenge is the time that it takes. For example, Tony Pham again did the animation, all the artwork for the Seeds of Change. So we sat down and he put together a production schedule of about 14 months, a little bit over a year. It ended up being a little closer to 2 years, and that was not probably about a year and 11 months. But there were different reasons for it, and a lot of them were good reasons. So you have to be flexible and be okay with not meeting a deadline. You brought up the people that have thrown together, short films, the music's too loud and everything. My thinking is you only get one chance to make a first impression.
That's right.
Make it right. And if it takes a year and 11 months to come to completion instead of 14 months, make sure it's right, it's beautiful, because nobody's ever going to look at that and say, how come you didn't have this 4 months ago? They're going to look at it and say, hey, I like it, or I don't like it, or whatever it is they're going to say about it.
Right.
So be flexible with the change. And
it takes a lot of time, it seems like, doesn't it? so much. I don't know how
And
they can pump
Tony,
those features out in like. Have you heard how they pump these features out in what 3 months, 4 months? I don't know how they. Oh well, they've got a team. The studios have millions of people to work on it, so I guess that's right. When you're just working with a couple people and they have day jobs, it's a different story, right?
exactly.
You gotta use your spare time. Are you working a full-time job and then this is your part-time gig or your hobby or what?
I have just finished up my 15 years with General Mills. I was a sales rep for them for the last
That's
15
right.
years.
You sold cereal. I love it. I love it so much. What? Tell me about that, because I'm all about the cereal.
Well, that's why in my writer's bio it says in a former life he sold Cheerios. Because
Favorite apple cinnamon Cheerios every morning. Oh,
exactly.
now what did you do? Did you make? What did you do there?
So I was a local rep here in Phoenix. There's anywhere from like 9 to 15 of us over the years as the company, got bigger, contracted. So I was a store rep. So basically, I would walk into the neighborhood Safeway, and our two companies negotiated this month. The mid-sized cereal is on an end cap. The Progresso soup is on an end cap. The Yoplait yogurt gets the bunker. The Totino's pizza gets a display door.
Wow.
So I would go in and say, all right, you're doing everything you're supposed to do. Then I would have a list of things that maybe haven't sold for a while and find out why, the tag got pulled or whatever. And then the third part of the job was to get him to do more, right? Hey, you have 5 cases of cereal back there. How about I build you a display and take some of that labor off your plate, so offer them a solution, and it helps everybody. They don't have to worry about it. I get it out. I build it. I'm their labor. So it was a day filled with, I'd hit like 4 or 5 stores in a day, all the Walmarts, the Targets, the Fry's, who's the local Kroger version. So I was just out and about.
Oh, I love. Didn't you love it? Oh my God, that sounds like my dream job. I would love that. I would love that because those are all my favorite stores and those are all my favorite foods. And you got to really have a passion, and you can tell that I have a great love of the fork and spoon, right? So I would love to be around all that food every day. Oh, that's a dream job. I might try to get that job when I retire. So now that you've retired, you have all the time to focus on screenwriting. So this is fantastic. So what role? Now, I was listening to you constantly talking about, and this is a fact, that you have to collaborate with people. That's why I could never be a screenwriter, because I can't collaborate with other people. If I have an idea, it's my idea, and I just want to flesh it out, and I don't want to hear anything over there from the, what is that called, from the orchestra. I couldn't do it. I can't be a collaborator. I can't. So, but what role does collaboration play in bringing your animated shorts to life? And how do you work with animators, musicians, and voice actors? Because I couldn't do it. How do you do it? Well, you seem like a really chill guy, though. You seem very chill, relaxed, and it seems like you get along with everybody. So, and you're not ego driven. So I imagine it's very easy for you, right?
No, well, yeah, it's easy, but it's not at the same time, right? Because I have my idea of what I think the film's going to look like and sound like. It might not be the same exactly as John wanted, or Darwin wanted, or Tony wanted. But that's the part of it, the producer part of it, that you have to keep everybody positive, make sure their contribution is what they contribute is appreciated. But at the same time, John McCartney always says he gets a kick out of, because I would say, he would say, I'm a screenwriter, I need more words. And I would say, take your screenwriter hat off And just think of it this way, right?
Mhm.
And you know, if Darwin submitted the opening song to Seeds of Change, I wanted something mystical and lyrical and whimsical, I think is the right word.
Yeah.
And he the first song he submitted was a little more, you know, a little more country and down home. It wasn't a Magical Pumpkin. It would have been better suited for Saguaro Sam. You know, it's a matter of working with your partners and
Yeah.
saying, you know, hey, I'd love that, but not for this.
Ugh.
And
I love you.
here's a
Right.
song that I like that I think would be
Ugh.
better for it. Can you do something like that?
Oh,
You know?
yeah. See, look how diplomatic and suave you are. My God. There would be like some hair pulling and weaves would be pulled out if I was in a collaboration because I just cannot. I tried it. Once, but I'm not a screenwriter and I don't have that interest, but I did try it, of course, for class. But I just said, oh no, your idea sucks. Yours suck. You know, no, I'm not seeing it. Get away. I'm not hearing it. Talk to the hand. So I knew at that point screenwriting was not my destiny, but I so admire people that can get it done. Now, if somebody watched all 4 of your animated shorts in one sitting, what through line or common thread would you hope that they'd notice? Like your stamp.
My stamp. Yeah. No, you know what? I think back to what you were during your introduction, what you said about personal branding, right? And
No.
in truth, I wasn't thinking I should have listened to you 12 years ago, because my all my socials are totally different, which I know
I
is
did.
not.
I noticed that. I did. I was like, oh God, poor Brian. He
See,
needs
but
to.
you didn't bring it
I
up. You didn't bring it
didn't
up. You're
say it.
diplomatic.
No,
You're
no.
diplomatic.
I am. I guess you just brought that out in me. I didn't know I was diplomatic. Wow. But yeah, but see, you didn't know, but it's always it's very easy to start doing it now because you do want to be found. I mean, if your stuff is good, you want to be found. You want to people should be able to go on Google and type Brian O'Connor and you're everywhere as Brian O'Connor. But your name, I understand, is very common. So people are going to have it already. So you got to go Brian O'Connor, screenwriter, or screenwriter Brian O'Connor. You just have to be creative with it. But yeah, definitely, if that is something you want to do and try to get your stuff noticed more, I would think about doing that. If you can say something like, I don't know how many followers you have, but you can say, hey guys, I'm going to be rebranding as Brian O'Connor and look out for it. And then in advance, be prepping everyone so that they can go to the new rebranded site and subscribe. You say, hey, make sure that you subscribe, make sure you follow. And that's what I heard at a TED Talk of a screenwriter. Oh my God, who was that screenwriter? Oh, he won so many Oscars. In the 80s though, in the 90s. But that's what he said. He had to rebrand all of his stuff, and he said it was such a hassle because he had hundreds of thousands of followers, but he had all different socials. He had some under his feature film, some under his book, and he was very smart to hire what's called a social media digital marketer. And if you can afford it, I would highly recommend anybody hire a social media digital marketer. There is a company called Fiverr, Fiverr, and they are very affordable. They're like in India and the Philippines, but they're very smart people, and they can get all of your films together, all your social media. They can draw attention to your sites. And again, they're very affordable. But thank you, Brian, because that is so important. Branding. You got to have all your stuff cohesive. Everybody does. Everybody does. So think about rebranding for those of you. I mean, I met this one actress. Oh, she was so good, Brian. Oh, my God. And she had Lucy Go Lucky on one site, and then Lucy Is It, and Come See Lucy on this site, and all over the place. And I really felt for her because she didn't know how to brand herself, and she was building a following, but they were all over sites. So I refer her to a huge casting director, like A-list, who casts for network. And I told him her name. He Googles it and he sees all these different sites. He decided not to call her in for an audition because he knew that she was not professional enough to be able to know this basic thing. But in this day and age, she could change it. So hopefully she does. Now, so
just to go back to your initial question about watching the foreign films.
Yeah.
Right. Our strengths in a lot of cases are weaknesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Personally.
Yeah, of course.
So I try to spin that as my brand is I have no brand.
Brand is I have no brand.
My brand is I have no brand. So
I have no brand.
I have people that think of me for the animation side. I have people that think of me for the script side, and eventually somewhere they'll meet.
But I love your website title. What was it? Right on Brian. And I love the play on words, WRITE. Like right on, dude. Power to the people. So I love that. That's very good. So now your shorts feature original soundtracks, right?
Right.
And can you talk about the importance of music in your storytelling and how you collaborate with composers?
It was while making the seasons of Saguaro Sam that I realized what a big difference it was. I had met a producer in LA, out having some meetings, mentioned I was going to make this animated short, and what it was going to be about. And she mentioned that her husband was a musician and wanted to get into soundtracks. So that's kind of where this came from. And I was like, I hadn't thought about, I'm definitely going to need music for the end, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And so he'd sent, after much back and forth, and this was Darwin again that I'm speaking of, after back and forth on songs. Yeah, hey, I like this, I like that. Can you go a little longer? When he sent me what our final song was, I literally was playing the song on my phone, holding it under the film as I watched the film. And I realized it made the film move so much faster.
Yeah.
That then I go back to him like, all right, can you do this for 3 minutes now? 3 minutes and 2 seconds or whatever it was. So it sets the tone. It helps with
so important.
The atmosphere. It made the whole thing move faster.
It can make it or break it. I'm telling you. And sometimes you're watching something and there's music that's so low that's the driving force in the film, but the sound mixer, sound designer is so brilliant that you don't even know there's music playing, but it's actually subliminally carrying you along, and it's creating feelings, and it's moving you, and it's causing emotion. And that's a good sound designer and a sound mixer. So I would say with any screenwriter, please make sure that you get a good color corrector too. That's so important. But sound, because the senses, just think of the senses, people. You'll be all right. All right, last question.
Well, that, and just real quick, that was
Okay,
one
yeah.
of just exactly what you said. One of the things that Darwin taught me is for the Orange Man. He's like, this is the Orange Man song. These are the Thugs song. This is for
Mhm.
when the confrontation happens. I didn't realize at the time that in so many of the films, the character, the character when you hear the song, even if you don't
That's
really
right.
know it.
That's right.
And I'd watched recently it's from like 2000 or whatever, Wild Things.
Yeah.
Crazy movie, great soundtrack. And all of a sudden I realized, yep, every time this character came on, this music played. Every
That's
time this
right.
character came on, this music played.
That's right.
So it's that subliminal thing that you
Yes.
don't realize that's happening. And that's one of the things I learned from Darwin.
That is so important. A sound designer and a sound mixer and a color corrector. And you got it. And good actors. Good actors. Last question. What are some tips, advice, or resource information that you could give aspiring screenwriters about being a screenwriter, a producer, a director?
The first tip is you just have to do it. People are going to tell you no, or, you might think, I don't live in Hollywood. Why should I be writing?
Not an excuse, because we're in
Exactly.
the age of technology.
Exactly.
You can do anything anywhere.
Right. So that's the first thing. If you want to do it. And again, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So be prepared. It's going to take a while. If nothing else. There are plenty of resources online that you could go to. Roadmap Writers is one of them. They have classes. You can pitch to executives, managers. They'll teach you how to pitch.
What is it called?
Roadmapwriters.com.
Roadmapwriters.com. Oh, excellent tip.
Right. Yeah, they provide a roadmap. That's where their idea is. I love nofilmschool.com. That's
what is it called?
nofilmschool.com.
Nofilmschool.com. I love it. What is
that? You run the gamut. They have his own podcast. He links articles. The guy that runs that is hustling. I really like another full service website, sellingyourscreenplay.com. Ashley Scott Myers runs it. He's become a friend. He will teach you has a little course, teach you how to write your story, how to market it. He has producers that he submits to. He has readers that'll provide coverage and give you notes. Everything that you want to do. You could go to film school like what you did.
But it costs too damn much, and it's not a guarantee. Don't do it. Not with today's technology. All the sites that you just mentioned, and I'm sure that you have to pay something, but it's nothing compared to what I paid, $520 a credit. So, but that was like 1992. That was probably cheap. I don't know what it is now, but really, film school, if you can afford it, go to film school. But if you can't afford it, it doesn't matter, because there are people who haven't gone to school at all, and they've won Oscars for being a screenwriter. I know I had a list a while back, but right? So
exactly, yeah, and then you just have to stick with it, and just again, there's no ladder of success in this business.
Yes.
What works for you might not work for John, might not work for Sarah. You have to find your own way.
Yes, and networking is very important as a screenwriter. You've got to get out there, go to these networking parties. You've got to meet producers, directors, and you got to make an impression. And it's got to be a good impression. So, it's so true. First impressions are very important. So, have that screenplay in your trunk. you never know. It's old school having a physical copy, but, just have it. I would highly recommend, I was just turned on to and ended up getting, and it has been a tremendous success for me. One of my friends in Chicago came into town and he said, "Hey, Priscilla, can I give you my contact information?" Which I already had, but he said, "I bought this new thing called DOT.com. It's a little card like the size of a business card. You tap it on any phone, Android, what's the other one? iPhone.
Mhm.
It will just put all of your information right in their contacts. So when you're at a party and you're networking, and people are impressed because not many people know about the dot.com. And I'm not affiliated with them and I don't get any kind of money, but I was blown away with how I was just dotting people. Hey, they're like, "Oh my God, that's so cool." And when a producer and a director of high caliber sees this, they're going to say, "Hey, this person's on top of the technology. They're professional." And they got your information immediately rather than going to Google you. So
I will be checking that out. I will be on that.
Oh, you got to. Oh, it's so cool. It comes in different colors. You can get the watch. I mean, it is just wild. Dot.com, please. And let me know if you end up getting it. Because when you come to LA, we can dot each other. All right. We want to see your videos now. So again, we're going to end the show with the videos. So very exciting, people. We're about to see, I believe it's going to be all 4, which is Seeds of Change. Give me the other 3.
The Seasons of Saguaro Sam, A Very Lemmy Christmas, and Orange Purpose.
Yes, and this is you were the screenwriter for all of them, or
other than the Seeds of Change, which was John McCartney's story, he was a screenwriter. The other 3 were all me, writer, producer, director.
Woo! Okay, so thank you so much for the interview. We're going to close it out with everybody watching Brian O'Connor's films, and I hope to see you in Arizona at the film festival. Hopefully your film makes the cut. I'm sure it will.
I was just saying, I'm still hoping. I haven't heard one way or the other, so I'm still hoping.
I think they're still screening. I'm still screening like so many films a day, but I'm sure that you'll hear something. All right. Thank you, Mr. Brian O'Connor. You were a wonderful guest and a hot guy. Your wife's a lucky woman. Oh, my God. I'm going to tell her when I meet her at the film festival, I'm going to say, "Can I rub elbows with your husband?" All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And we're going to watch Brian O'Connor. Oh, wait a minute. Let's go to his website. Right on Brian.com and tell us your other one. Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook. Actually, that's one with my name,
Brian O'Connor.
Brian O'Connor. Twitter, it's Brian_M_O'Connor. That was the only way I could get my name in there.
I know.
Instagram was just like BOCME. That came from back when the internet first started. You put your initials on it.
Right.
They would go, I would put BOC and they'd be like, "Who's BOC?" And I would go, "Me."
So, are you related to Carol O'Connor by any chance? Because you look just like him, like you could be brothers or cousins.
Somewhere along the line.
I think you are. You need to go on Ancestry.com. All right. So just go to Right on Brian, WRITEON BRIAN, and then type his name in Facebook. You'll find him. Okay. Absolutely. All right, sweetie. Thank you so much. Let's play his videos now. Oh, and subscribe to his channels and follow him. Oh, YouTube. Oh my God, you're on YouTube. What are you on under YouTube?
I should have been more prepared for this.
Well, you know what? That's all right. Let me see. All right, I got it here. Website, rightonbrian.com, YouTube at brian.m.o'connor, Facebook at Brian O'Connor, Instagram at BOCME, Instagram at the Seeds of Change Film. Different. X is at Brian_M_O'Connor, and IMDb Brian O'Connor #1, because there's a lot of them. I think there's like 14. #1. All right, there you go. And subscribe to his channels because he needs little thumbs and subscribes. And me too, at Priscilla Leona for everything. Okay, we'll see you next time on Question Reality. Watch Brian.
The sun shines bright as a magical rainbow mist dances on the fields. This combination of godliness and worldliness turns a few plants and animals into cherub-like creatures. Hello, Hector. I am Portia.
A pumpkin and a squirrel talking to each other. We are so different.
My stories let us know we are not so different. Who is that? Why do they pick on the minstrel?
They're afraid of what they don't understand. Look! Another weirdo! Roll, Portia! Save your seeds!
Goodbye, my dear Hector.
They told me, ba-rum-pa-pum-pum, a newborn king to see, ba-rum-pa-pum-pum. Our finest gifts we bring, ba-rum-pa-pum-pum, rum-pa-pum-pum, rum-pa-pum-pum. Peace on earth, can it be? And years from now,
You're not Percival? No, we're not. But come in now with the cold. We're about to sing. Won't you join us?
say the day. So delicious. That's smart. It's only money. Leave the bitch. Bounce.
It's a little something something to remember you by. Oh, yeah. Here's a little something something for you, too.
You're listening to Question Reality. Question Reality with Priscilla Leona. Priscilla Leona.